Okay, so now let's take a look at this acceptance test. So this is in the Seric accounts repo, and this is the testing that I did for the functionality of logging in with social and whatnot. So looking at what we've got here, if we go from the top down, before runs before every test, of course, and there's this, delete my social users. Definitely looks like something that's not expected to be included in a package, and it's not. And one of the cool things about acceptance tests, or any test really in Codeception, is your ability to write helper functions. So what I've got in my tests folder in the support directory that Codeception created, under helpers, in the acceptance helpers, I've created my own function. So in order to test that I can add in my social users, I first need to make sure I can get, I don't have any social users in the database, because that's my ground zero assumption that there's nothing there. Now notice that I'm using raw PDO to do this, and there's a reason for that, and that's because, as we saw in previous videos, in the configuration file you get to include this and that, and there's no Laravel included here. That means I don't have access to Laravel functions, very much like in unit tests. So when I'm attempting to log into the DB and remove my social users, I've got to go a little bit deeper than simply connecting to DB for Laravel. I've got to do it raw. So this is what it does. Basically, when I delete my social users, it goes through, and any users that are in there for my username, it removes them. So I guess the question is, how does it know who I am? And there's a neat little trick there too. So the other thing you can get with Codeception tests are these bootstrap files. So I've edited the bootstrap so that it looks for an acceptance config file, and I've excluded that from Git. At least I hope I have. Yes, I have. The real one is excluded. And so let's take a look in env's then let's take a look at the example. So these are the things I need in order to make these tests happen. I need a Seric user email, my password for that Seric user, a LinkedIn user that I want to connect, my DB information for that delete social user function I just showed you. So those are configurable in your own acceptance underscore config, and that way you won't commit those to the repo. You can keep that information private. So what does it do after it deletes my social users? Well, the first thing I want to do is make sure when I click, while I'm on the root page, which is just going to be accounts.seric.dev, I see sign into your accounts, which generally I probably will. Sign into your account. I can click the Facebook login button, and when I click the Facebook login button, I can see in current URL a dialog keyword and an OAuth keyword. When I wrote this,
you do?
When I wrote this, the Facebook login was not functional for some reason, so I just tested that I could get to the site and figured I would work out the details. Oh, it was because it wasn't configured. It was a dev mode or something like that. But let's move on to social login link, the social login for LinkedIn. So the first thing I need to do is I need to log out of my LinkedIn account if I'm logged in. Then I navigate to my accounts page. I see sign into my account. I click the LinkedIn login. It goes to the LinkedIn login URL. I fill in session key with my LinkedIn user email that's coming out of that config file, my password with my LinkedIn password coming out of that config file. I click sign in. I wait for the text sorry, because I know that I have different emails, and what I mean by that is I should get that message that says, we don't recognize that LinkedIn email account, do you want to connect it to your Seric account? That's the sorry message. On there I also see sign into your account, enter my login email, my login password, submit login, and I'll end up on my account. and I can see that my current URL is my account. I visit logout. I go back to the login page. I click LinkedIn login. I'm connected, and so instead of getting the sorry message, I go straight to my account. Standard login test, just to make sure that still works. I can log out of Seric, visit the login page, see sign into my account, enter my login email, login password, submit login. I'm on my account. If I try to use a social network that's not available, I get a status failed message. This actually should probably be an API test, but oh well. And redirect test, which is very important. It was noted that upon logging in with the new accounts, you didn't get a redirect like you expected. So I had to put in some extra testing to make sure that did work okay, and discovered some errors in getting these tests to work. But if I'm logged out and I try to visit a discussion board page post, then I'm going to get directed to sign into my account. I can enter my login and password. I submit login. I wait for subscribe, which tells me that I'm back on the post page, and I assert that I'm on the discussion boards page, which is where I was attempting to visit before I had to log in. So, making this actually do something. I'm running now, so let's kill this. So I set up Selenium Webdriver. Like I said, we can go through that, but I've got a shortcut for it, just Selenium, and now the Selenium server is up and running. So now if I go back and I do sept, which is my shortcut for codeception, so that would be codeception run acceptance. So it's going to fire up Chrome and drive it, run through all those things. This is my check that I get to the login to Facebook. I logged out of LinkedIn. Which redirects me to their login, but that doesn't matter. I want to navigate over to accounts.seric.dev. I click the LinkedIn login. I enter my username and password. I see my sorry message. I enter my username and password. I log in and I'm connected. I log out, revisit login, click LinkedIn login. I'm logged into LinkedIn. I'm connected, so I get my accounts. I just logged in with username and password. And now driver is running faster than I'm talking, but you see the previously discussed functionality, and I have all 5 tests okay. And that's acceptance end-to-end testing with WebDriver. An important thing to note here is there is another option, which is PHP Browser, that does something very similar, but it's very similar also to the video series and his discussion of Symfony web browser, or whatever's being used for those sort of pseudo tests, where you don't actually have a real browser, you just visit pages as if you were on a real browser. And that if we look here, so here's the reason for that. PHP Browser emulates browser activity, but it doesn't actually run, say, JavaScript. And so that would not allow us to do very much on this page, because this is all, of course, Vue functionality. And so that's the reason that the instead of having PHP Browser configured for this acceptance, we've got actual Selenium Webdriver, so we can drive a real browser, so we can actually run JavaScript and test that it works as expected.